Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and this is the Board Game Blueprint. This week, we're going to be taking a look at how 3 different games from the Game Crafter have approached or tackled the theme of paleontology. So let's jump on over to the table next door and see what we have in store. I thought we'd start with one of 3 games having to do with, that's right, paleontology. That is going to be this one called Excavate Lite, which is a kind of condensed version or an abridged version of the full game Excavate on TGC. Packaged in a neat tuck box, pretty relevant to our recent videos. It is a really, I think, interesting way to approach this theme. So let's get into the reasons why. Setup is going to have these piles of tiles or cards, square cards, and we'll be paleontologists kind of roaming around the dig site. And the cool thing for me is that you're actually going to be moving, using action points to collect fossils that are underneath all of this dirt and sand and such. So for me, yeah, what's kind of fun is that you're actually going to be traveling in the alleys between all the spaces, and for like a single action, you might move an adjacent space down. In fact, we'll actually say that we move up because the more valuable fossils or goodies are going to be under the gold outlined tiles. So once you've maybe moved into position or what have you, you can spend an action to then excavate. And what happens here is really cool. You flip the card over to reveal what's there. In this case, it's oil, which you can sell for money, which is important for acquiring fossils into your own personal museum area. But this tile actually gets placed onto the opposite pile. So you're effectively digging your way through the piles, which I think is just really fun and really interesting. So yeah, those are the main kind of action. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit here and pretend that green is next. And green finds a gas line. Oh boy, well, that's not especially great because this is how the end of the game is triggered when all 3 gas line cards are revealed. So this will just kind of be put off to the side, face up to remind players how far into the game you about are. But let's go ahead and dig again, and let's see if this is any better here. Diamonds, okay, so diamonds are good for selling again for money. Maybe I'm gonna actually just dig up a regular space here, tile here. Basically, yeah, when you sell this for an action, you'll gain 3 money, 1 for each diamond represented. And let's see if we can go with red and show off an example of what we mean. Another diamond, oh my gosh, who shuffled this deck? One more time here, dirt. Dirt is nothing, very sad. Let's go ahead and use the 3rd action just to see. Let's find something good. Oh man, too good, okay. I'm gonna have to just flip through and ruin the surprise. Okay, there we go. So in this example, if we were to draw a pterodactyl head or uncover one in a pile, let's say we kind of dug it up from this pile and put it right here, we can spend a coin to the bank to kind of bring that into our, again, personal build area here. And as we can see, the pterodactyl is 4 cards large. Oop, there we go. So the pterodactyl head, and we have the wing, and probably the tail end there. And every player is going to be trying to complete as many sets of fossils as they can by the end of the game. That's right, when 3 of those gas lines are revealed. So the number of points that you'll receive is basically how many cards are in the completed set. It's all or nothing scoring, I believe. There is no actual progressive kind of scoring, like partial credit or anything like that. We want to get all 4 of them as possible. And the other kind of really cool thing that isn't just, you know, moving the tiles as you're digging and shoveling all the cards is that you can actually propose trades with other players across the table for free. So at any given time, you pull this pterodactyl head and you see that blue player over there has the wing, and the final tail. You can offer them this card in exchange for some amount of gold coins, because that's right, you do have to pay money to pick them up from the dig site. Or maybe you could trade them, you know, 2 pieces of a brachiosaur that you have. Let me double check and verify that the brachiosaur is actually in the game. How about a lizard instead? You can take a full lizard from them, or a full stego, or even, let's see if we can find it. Yes, the ambitious T-Rex, of which there's only 1 set, 5 cards large. So whoever's hunting for that one is really going to need to do some trades and have a lot of gold or whatnot to do so, enough money, so to speak. But yeah, there is the general gist of Excavate. You are going through the layers of sand and rock, or in this case, dirt, and you'll be moving around with your little meeples to represent your movement that way. And then, yeah, you'll be collecting different sets of fossils for your personal museums and trying to beat out the competition that way. So I think it's very effective in all the different ways. I should also mention that there are various tool cards that you can use. Some of them are passives, and some of them are, as indicated here, one-time, or listed as one-time abilities that you can use, I believe, also as an action on your turn. So all sorts of fun possibilities there. And I think, yeah, that social interaction, which I'm not necessarily a not fan of in a lot of games, but I think that this one really works because you'll be just so on edge and pitting yourselves against each other, trying to get not only what's good for you, but maybe what's good for a rival player in the event that you can open up a sort of bargain positioning chip with them at some point. So that is, again, Excavate Lite and how they kind of crammed, or I should say cram-packed the experience of all competing at a fossilized dig site and excavating as lightly as possible. The second game I want to look at is Fossil Hunters, which also has some awesome table presence, but no card stacks. I was going to say tiles. Cards, you get the idea. Let's go ahead and see why. So this game, as you can already tell, also features fossils, set collection as well. In fact, I can pull up an example one here. So in the case of the Deinonychus or Velociraptor, there are 2 halves to the card to collect 3 points. So that's going to be what you're kind of scurrying around this giant rock. I believe it's referred to as a slab. So you can imagine it's sort of a giant hole in the rock here. And what we'll be doing as the paleontologists is using these chisels, these rectangles, I can't even think of the right piece name now, and putting them, just as we kind of saw with Excavate Lite, in the alleys of the slab of the rock. And the reason why that's important is because in this non-complete setup here, you'll be trying to cut off certain chunks and then divvying up the amount of tiles in that area based on who has kind of the most area control presence. So unfortunately, this setup isn't particularly great. I wanted to show that at the beginning of the turn, you will kind of recover or sharpen as many tools, as it says here, 3 chisels at the beginning of every turn. So we'll also have gotten 3 more to have added. And we're kind of, yeah, just adding these pathways, creating these branches and such to try and claim as much area as possible. There are other colors too, which I don't actually have set up here because I thought orange would show up the most and the best. But if, for example, we were to finish off and let's see, oh, you know, I guess, well, I have 1. And I guess we can put it like here to cut it off, maybe? That's not great. Let's go ahead and just pretend that we did something more like this. All right. So in this shape here, we have 2 tiles, and the majority is won by orange. So, you know, I'm just going to throw in 1 more. Ooh, we're doing it live, everyone. Believe it or not. So here we go. This is maybe a better example here. So these 3 tiles, because orange has the majority of chisel cuts that they kind of claimed, they controlled or, you know, bid for, so to speak, with their actions, they get to split and then take the half rounded up. So of these 3 tiles, they can decide which of these 3, that there are 2 of the 3 that they want to take and collect to then complete the skeleton there. So as we can see, they're kind of working around quite a bit here. And based on like the colors and also just the shapes, you can see how many points, again, each one is worth and what they could possibly go for. So I'm guessing that they would want to go for the big brachiosaur here for the hefty 15 complete set 5 tiles, because they see another one is right over here on the side, and then there's also one up top there that's being cut off by the video. But then they also maybe want the Tyrannosaur. And then I believe what happens is that the other player would collect this last one. And if there were any that were kind of like remaining, so let's say that there were 4 tiles, the orange player would get to take 2, the player with the black would take 1, and then the last one would kind of be pitched or discarded, from what I recall. And yeah, the economy here is basically how you maximize your actions based on how many chisels you have each turn. You can save up to 2 every turn, but that is the maximum there. So really, yeah, it's going to be a matter of how you place them out, where you place them out, and I should also mention that it's very important too, none of mine showed it, when you have these rocks on the edge that you might be building on, you're going to have to commit extra chisels to it as well, depending on how many rocks there are present. So in this instance, there are 2 rocks, so you need to discard or dull 2 of your chisels before even placing one out onto the board. But if you really want that space, and eventually everyone's going to want it, you have to decide, yeah, whether it's better for you and when to claim that or to allow somebody else to do so. And that's the real crunch of Fossil Hunters, which again is featuring mostly set collection, but I think that absolutely this idea that everyone is working on the same board and you're kind of taking tiles away, and that you're trying to claim as much as possible, is what absolutely separates Fossil Hunters apart from other paleontological games. I'm also a big fan of this small pro box. And the last game that we'll be looking at today is Dino Dig Risky Sites. So this one, I would say, kind of harkens back a little bit more to the gameplay that we can expect from Excavate Lite, but there's still, yeah, some really fun stuff to also explore here. So let's get on into it. In a similar way, we have a grid of tiles that we will be excavating, and turns are simple with action points as well. We can move, we can dig, or we can tool. And basically, yeah, we're going to start the game with a number of tool cards, which most of which, in fact, all of them are kind of one-time use that we'll be able to use strategically on our turns for one of our 2 action points per turn. But the other way that we can go about is by moving and then digging. So we will be moving 1 space and then digging the top card that we are currently on top of for, as you might imagine, set collection. As you might not have imagined, we have a scorpion here, and these work in a way, kind of push your luck almost, where the player with the most actually scores points, but then any other player, I believe, gets a penalty for every scorpion that they possess. So things can get pretty hairy, pretty crazy, pretty fast. But hey, that's another day in the life. So the other cool thing that I want to mention about Dino Dig that I quite enjoy is the leapfrog mechanic. And what I mean by that is that when you're moving, you're only moving 1 space adjacent. And in the event that green is going next and they cannot move because yellow is in the way, they actually get to hop right on over. So maybe that's what you'll do, yeah, to get to a maybe more prime position for digging, because the regular sand is kind of mess stuff in terms of the scoring. The ones that feature a few bones is like bit better, and then the rocks are even more juicy. So generally speaking, you might want to start the game, because you can place anywhere you want for setup, on top of one of these rock spots. But from what I understand, they actually have the most risk for uncovering a scorpion. Watch out for those stingers there. So yeah, you'll be kind of moving around the game, trying to collect as many sets as possible. Let's go ahead and just play as purple here, which is really appreciated to have that player color there, and see, oh man, it's another scorpion. It's going to be another one of those draws where I should have stacked the deck, but I didn't. We'll move on over here, second turn, let's say, second round, because again, you can only dig and move on a single turn based on the 2 action point limit. Let's see what we dig up here. Yes, here you go. And what's fun is that for here, I believe there is iterative scoring, or like in progress scoring. So even though you've only pulled one bone from this set, of which I'm not entirely sure, you will score 4 points at the end of the game for it. But as you complete more and more, you just kind of fill out the rest, you will get more points for every card in that set. So that part I do quite like a little bit friendlier, a little bit more accessible, as I think this game is meant to be. But I also like, yeah, that there's a little bit of maybe educational value if you're able to fulfill the full-on sets that way. So yeah, again, everyone's going to be building one in front of them, privately I suppose, but openly, to get as many points as they can muster. What ends the game though is that for every time that a pile is gone all the way through, let's just fast forward again, purple digs all the way through another scorpion and a different set for a triceratops probably, you will place then an empty dig site card in its location. So once all the empty dig sites have been placed, that will end the game. But there is a way to kind of prolong it just a little bit with one of the tool cards that you start the game with again, and that you can only use once per game. That's going to be this wheelbarrow card. It says move any 2 top tiles anywhere, so you can actually kind of disposition, relocate, 2 tiles or cards from anywhere, I believe, on the board on top of that dig site, and then all of a sudden the game goes on maybe an extra round or 2 depending on how long it gets emptied. And basically you have that power to delay it, at least one more, because no one can actually sit on the space that you're on. So the next turn you would maybe move or dig through it again, just try to get something a little bit juicier that way. But this is, I think, is a really approachable game, really like the colors, and very simple, in terms of the set collection aspect, which, as we've seen, has been a unifying factor across all these games, because in Paleontology, you're trying to complete the full skeleton of the dinosaur that you're digging up. But I believe, that they all kind of do it in a different way, or at the very least, they have some extra mechanical hook that separates them all apart from each other. That's right. The Excavate Lite had the tiles actually moving the piles, and that you were actually in the alleyways. So you were kind of like sunken into the dig site, versus here in Dino Dig, where you're on top of it quite literally, and you have a kind of de-escalating or a depth mechanic, I suppose, as you're collecting those different cards. Then with Fossil Hunters, as we saw, everything was out in the open and everything was upturned actually, but you were kind of, vying for position instead of actually having a physical presence in the game space on that slab, which I believe is the vocabulary term, or the technical term in that game. What I should also mention is that every game, I believe, had an alternate rule set to kind of change up the difficulty a little bit, so I thought that was very much appreciated as well. Again, if you wanted to get some younger paleontologists, as Dino Dig Risky Sites mentions, or again, for Excavate Lite specifically, there's also a full Excavate game, also I believe available on TGC if you wanted a little bit more bite with that. But I believe I've boned up as much as I could, all of you guys, about some of the different ideas that are available for a singular theme, and that there's absolutely multiple ways to get stuff to happen for your designs. No pun then. But here we are, and I hope, that again you are reassured about what is possible even with a singular theme, how many different approaches that there are for it, and that you can absolutely approach or tackle an already established or seen theme with a few tweaks to make it all your own. I hope this video provided you a look at how, even with the same core concepts, how 3 different executions can be had based on, that's right, just a singular kind of theme idea, and that it might inspire you to, even if you've seen a game already come out that might be similar to your own, find ways to distinguish it even more so. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell icon so that you can stay notified when the next video goes up. As always, I'm Ben. This has been another episode of the Board Game Blueprint, and together, let's build something great.